welcome to another episode of Trek Canon. So today I'm doing a review on season 1, episode 7 of Prodigy, First Con-Tact. So let me tell you off the bat. First, spoilers. I always got to remember to say that. Spoilers. So if y'all don't want spoilers, pause the video, come on back, start the video back up and we continue on. But y'all know how I roll. So, like I said, this episode is called First Con-Tact. Alright? Now, let me just say from the beginning that the Prodigy art is animation is always top notch. It is always top notch. And this episode was a prime example of the level of top-notchness that it was, especially when they get to the planet. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So this episode basically is an episode about meeting a new species, and we go into a little bit of Dow's history and everything like that, and we start to unravel just a little bit of the mystery that happened with the protostar. All right, now in one of the flashbacks, we see a Captain Chakotay, but in a uniform that I don't recognize. We do know that from the episode Timeless and things like that, that when Chakotay got back to Starfleet, he basically when they got back to the Federation, he basically quit according to that particular timeline to go and try to find Voyager. So I'm interested, and in the other timeline, he died before they were able to get back to Earth. So I'm curious as to what made Chakotay be on a protostar, first of all, to stay in Starfleet and make the rank of captain, second of all, and what does General Grievous have to do with the whole situation? Now, we meet the Ferengi that raised Dahl, and we find out that Dahl basically had sold off into slavery, and that's pretty consistent with what a Ferengi would do. If a Ferengi seen profit in it, that's pretty much the route that they're gonna go. Ferengi is the ultimate example of capitalism that went awry. So some of the things, so in this episode, he ends up running across a Ferengi marauder, and this Ferengi lady who ends up asking him for a mission. Basically a first contact mission, which is what he ends up telling the crew. Now, her ulterior motive is to get these crystals. Now, the interesting thing about this particular episode and the conversation that they was having about the cloaking device that Dahl wanted for the ship was that, for the last almost 60-something years, we've been having technical manuals, we've been having, all types of in-depth analysis and engineering and, techno jargon that has to do with cloaking devices, warp theory, and all that kind of stuff. And there's two things in New Trek that's trying to add some crazy stuff to the canon, and I don't know. So in Discovery, it was the chrono crystals that the Klingons were mining, when there's never been any, and that's why they call it Chronos, and that's never been mentioned in Star Trek canon. As a matter of fact, Klingons and time travel really only made itself prevalent in the final episode of Voyager. That's pretty much the only time we've seen Klingons even having anything to do with time travel or time technology. So in this one, though, they're saying that the cloaking device works on chimerium. Yeah, you heard me right. Chimerium. Like chimera, but chimerium. That's what we're going to go with. Now, I'm not going to lie. For about a good 10 minutes, that threw me off of everything that was going on. And I kind of had to rewind back, to pick up where I left off. Because the only thing that kept ringing in my brain was chimerium. Like, chimerium. And all of the times that they was discussing cloaking devices and how to install cloaking devices on the Enterprise, and how to steal cloaking devices and, how to phase cloak, all of this kind of stuff. No chimerium. As a matter of fact, chimerium has never been mentioned in Star Trek canon at all. Not never, not never. So that was interesting. Now, Damon Anandi, which is her name, which Damon, by the way, is a rank. It's basically the equivalent of a captain. So I'm curious as to, she has a Marauder class vessel. She has the title and rank of Damon, but we didn't see a crew. You know what I mean? We just seen an AI box floating around, but we seen no crew. Another thing was, there must be some kind of way that people from the Alpha Quadrant are closing the distance to the Delta Quadrant now, because there were two Ferengi that were stuck in the Delta Quadrant from the episode of The Next Generation of Price, and they went through that wormhole that was unstable and ended up in the Delta Quadrant. They had a Voyager episode about it, and they were two guys. So, you know, yeah, wasn't a female. So I'm interested to see. We'll find out how a female Ferengi not only got a ship, but is wearing clothes and is doing all this type of stuff. Because the only person in canon that ever has happened to that has went against that Ferengi tradition was Mogi, man. You know, Quark and Rom's mom. You know, Quark and Rom's mom. Anyway, so I'm interested to see, because it seems like they're going to have her as a as a reoccurring character in a show. So I'm kind of interested to see how they explain her presence and her clothes and her ship and all of that stuff. So I'm interested in that. Now, it's interesting that it was cool that they referenced the phage. For those people who don't know what the phage is, it's a real jacked up disease, man. That was shown in Voyager in the Delta Quadrant. It was one of the early species that they ended up running across, and these cats was real terrifying, man. Can you imagine a society that, because of this disease that's ravaging your culture, you guys have to actively go out and steal organs from people? You know what I mean? Like, experts at graphing and everything, but this disease is just, so you'll see people walking around with other people's faces, it's just all jacked up. But they mentioned the phage, Also, that little Hamajaran statue from, everybody seems to have one in Discovery and the new Trek. Everybody seems to have an Hamajaran. And I'm going to assume that that's normal, because I might say, if I got the opportunity to go to Ryza, I have about 4 of those statues. About 4. Yeah, ain't lying. About 4. I want to sit right here, sit over here. I'm going to make sure some people see my statues. Hell yeah. So anyway, I'm going to have to check on the rules of acquisition to see where they left off in DS9, because they're up to 208 now. And I'm interested to see if that's something that they're adding to the rules of acquisition. Now, the thing about that is that if Rom was successful in doing the things that he wanted to do on Ferenginar, I would think that the rules of acquisition would either be getting toned down, beginning to get phased out, maybe, but I doubt that the changes that Rom was instituting and everything and overseeing as head of the Ferenginar would incorporate those types of old viewpoints and ways of doing business. So that's interesting. So the artwork again, man. Look, let me tell you something. So they go down to this planet. Oh, by the way, they was figuring out how the transporter worked, and I'm gonna agree. I would be scared of the transporter too. I would handle that like Bones handled the transporter. You know how Bones was like, "Nah, man, I ain't getting in this transporter. Nah, that ain't happening. Nah, we take a shuttle. We can land this. We can land. Nah, I ain't getting in the transporter. Never mind." So it was a beautiful planet. It was a sand world. The aliens that they ran into for first contact were so unique and so beautiful. There's so many times in Star Trek where you could say, okay, well, they just made a humanoid with different head prosthetics or something like that. But these were truly interesting, an interesting species. And being that the name of the episode was First Contact, I would have loved for them to dive more into that particular aspect of it. But the direction that they went, okay, I can understand that. Y'all want to push the story and everything like that. But again, the purpose of Star Trek is how we meet and interact with the unknown species. So to introduce an unknown species and not really build upon it, that's something that I'm noticing that they're doing a lot in Trek, and I don't really understand. For instance, in Discovery, the butterfly people, you know, in Lower Decks, who was it in Lower Decks? I forget, but we haven't really had the opportunity to dive into the first contact aspect of things with these new species. But this species right here, man, you know, them using the harmonics to change the matter and everything of the sand, silicone, that was just so, it was a beautiful vision that they had for that. And you know, it was awesome how they pulled it off. So, like I said, you know, Damon Nandy, she sold, you know, what was his name, Dow? She sold Dow into slavery, and he ends up finding this out when he's on, you know, when he's talking to her, and she ends up betraying him and stealing the crystal. Now, the thing is how are you going to put a Starfleet comm badge on the crystal and it's thick? Okay, side note, how you going to put a Starfleet comm badge on a crystal, and then the person who's carrying the crystal does not know that it's a Starfleet comm badge on this crystal? Also, Damon Nandy pulled out a Klingon disruptor that was not a Ferengi weapon. So I'm interested to see where she got a Klingon cloaking device, where she got a Klingon disruptor. And the only thing that I can think of, staying true to canon, is, do you guys remember that Klingon bird of prey that, or was it a battle cruiser? I think it was a bird of prey. It was a Klingon bird of prey that was stuck in the Delta Quadrant 2 that the caretakers ended up pulling through the array. And they taught B'Elanna Torres a bit about Stovall and everything like that, and the afterlife and all of that good stuff. I wonder if that ship had anything to do with this, with Damon Nandy having these particular items of the Klingons that she has. Now, and leave it to a Ferengi to sell somebody. Man, that was real jacked up to even say. You know, I felt real bad for Dal on that. You know, you could see the hurt in him. You know, you could see the hurt in him. You know, to want to be important, or to be important to someone, and to find out that you're not, or you haven't been, is a very, very, very terrible feeling. You know what I mean? So, the Prime Directive. Janeway ends up explaining to the crew, band Motley crew, of how she was disappointed because because of how First Contact went, you know, and how it's such a staple of Federation diplomacy and law, you know, and they thought that, okay, well, we ended up taking the crystal back and everything, but you have to, just like Janeway said, you have to look beyond it. Their first interaction with an alien species, and not just one alien species, it was about 5-6 different representations of aliens in their group. You know, not just Ferengi, but whatever Dow is, whatever the rock person is, the Medusan, all of those. So they see representation of several species, and the thing that they end up doing is stealing from them, you know, and almost causing the collapse of their society. You know what I mean? So Janeway was 100% right on that. And I think that what they should have done, the writers of this show, was shown some kind of way that they attempted to repair that, other than just beaming down the crystals. Now the thing is that if you guys notice, when they beamed down one of the crystals, it still had the Starfleet comm badge on it. So I'm hoping that this isn't the last we see of that particular species. And I hope that it isn't a future conflict with the species, because I really would love to get to know these species. They really look awesome. Now, I love the relationship that they're making between Dow and what's the name of his daughter? I'm gonna remember her name. Her. I love the relationship that they're making between them. You know, it seems like it's progressing, you know, really well, and it's going to end up becoming a very deep or a very strong bond, sort of like the relationship that Chakotay and Janeway ended up starting to develop, minus the romance, you know. So today's episode was pretty good. You know, it was a lot of stuff that they a lot of concepts that they tried to go into that they kind of dropped the ball on. Making up some new things, making up some new isotopes and minerals and elements in Trek to explain why things work in Trek. No, they've already been explained. You don't need to make up these type of fairy tale type name things. Chimerium, really? Like they don't even sound like that would be in a Trek type of thing. Chimerium. So I'm this episode, like I said, it was okay. It was okay. They wanted to do a lot, but they fell short on pretty much all of them. But it was still an interesting episode. It wasn't bogus. It was still an interesting. It had some things that you can look at and be like, oh, okay, I see what they're trying to do. And if it continues, what I'm saying, if they're able to build upon the things that they put in this episode, I think it'll come out nicely. I think it'll be all right. Now, a good episode to go back and kind of rewatch to, lay a foundation for the things that they build on. So tell me what you guys thought of the episode, man, and what you guys think. Also, please some recommendations on what episode of Star Trek you guys want me to sit down and we all watch during the 300th subscriber count, because we getting up there pretty fast, people. So y'all gotta leave some recommendations. And people who come to class who haven't subscribed, would you believe that that's a lot of people who come by the class, who walk past the hallway, come stick their head in, maybe come sit in the desk, pull up or something like that, and they never sign up for the class, man. They never subscribe, man. Come on, y'all, what's up? Stupid easy, barely an inconvenience, as they say. It's a bell right down there, man. Subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button, man. Support the people that's over here trying to do some high-speed stuff. Give out some high-speed information. But anyway, please subscribe if you guys haven't. If you guys like the material. If you don't like the material or think there's any ways that I can improve it, please let me know. And I'll think about it and tell you to kiss my... No, but I'll think about it and see what we could do. Peace, recycle, and say the wells. You guys be cool.